Good morning. Well, actually, I guess it might not be morning for you while you're watching this video, but for me, it is Sunday morning, Easter Sunday, and it's a beautiful morning out there. So I hope when you're watching this video, it's just as beautiful for you. Today, we are going to, let me just turn off the phone. We are going to be starting our multiplication. We've been talking about it for a while. We were looking forward to starting it, and so I thought, why not start it today? I know some of you have already been doing some work with multiplication. You've shared that with me, and I want to give a little shout out to Sohail. I know you've advanced to the multiplication part of your extra math, so good for you. But I want to say to those of you that already know a little bit about multiplication and may have already started to memorize some of your multiplication facts or times tables, that we're starting off by going through what multiplication is, and we're going to be showing it in a lot of different ways. Even though you may already know some multiplication, it's going to be important for you to participate in these lessons because I want you to be able to show it in different ways and not just have one way to figure it out. The reason for that is when we're using multiplication to solve problems, whether that's in class or in our daily lives, having multiple ways, having different ways of showing multiplication will help us solve different problems. And it also just makes sure that we have a really solid understanding of what we're doing and not just memorizing the facts. Both are important. All right, but to start with, we are going to be diving into what is multiplication. And today we're also going to learn one of the ways that we can figure out the answer. So one way of showing it. All right, I'm going to plug in the document camera and we're going to do a little introduction to what multiplication is. See you in a moment. All right, so here we are. Multiplication. So you've seen this symbol. We have talked about this in class as it's come up. And a lot of people will say times when they see this. And that's the most common way of seeing this symbol. But for our class, and while we're learning about multiplication, we're actually going to say groups of. Okay? So if we have a multiplication equation, 3 groups of 2. And it's an equation when we have the equals in there. Equation and equals start the same way. That's how you can remember it. And we're going to figure out the answer. So the way I want you to see these equations when you see them, instead of 3 times 2, I want you to say 3 groups of 2 while we're learning about multiplication, because that's going to help us remember what it is. All right? I'm going to give you some other vocabulary, and it's not so important that you remember this right now, but these parts of the equation, these are both called factors. So this is a factor, and this is a factor. Okay? Factor. And then the answer, when we find out the answer to this, the answer is called the product. So when we, if we think back to our math riddle, the answer when we add was called the sum. The answer when we subtract is called the difference. And the answer when we multiply is called the product. All right, so we have factors and product. Now, to figure out the answer, we're going to be using some objects in our home today. But I'm just going to use some counters right now to quickly show you how multiplication works. So if I look at my equation, 3 groups of 2, that means there's going to be 3 groups. So I'm just going to draw some circles for the groups. And there's going to be 2 in each group. So I'm just going to put 2 counters into each group. And there we go. Okay, so there's 3 groups with 2 in each group. The first factor tells me how many groups. The second factor tells me how many is in each group. Now, to get the answer, I simply need to see how many altogether. Just like when we add and we're finding out how many altogether, it's the same when we multiply. Well, the easiest way for me right now is I'm just going to say there's 2 plus 2 plus 2. 2, 4, 6. So I can erase that question mark and put in my product. My answer is 6. And I figured it out by doing 2 plus 2 plus 2. And I actually skip counted, which will be another way that we explore. Okay, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 more is 6. All right, now that we know what multiplication is, we're going to have some fun and search our house for some counters that we can use. And I'm going to show you some of the ones that I have found in my house. I will see you shortly. All right, grade 3s, we're going to go on a little hunt through my house, and I'm going to try and find 3 objects that I'm going to use to demonstrate some more multiplication for you. I am just going to turn the camera around so you can see where we're going and what I'm grabbing. All right, here we are. We're going to go up the stairs. I'm sorry if this is a little shaky. I don't actually have a selfie stick. And you're going to see a little bit of my house here. This is the front door. Nice sunshine streaming through that window. And let me see. This is my bedroom. And let me think. Is there anything in here that I can use? Oh, I do have something in my closet. In this container, I have got a bunch of different buttons. Can't really see them, but I'm going to grab this. Those could be helpful. Okay. We're just going to turn off the light, and we're going to head into the kitchen. It's my living room. That's where you've maybe seen me film some other videos. And here is my kitchen. Let me think. I know in my pantry I have lots of things that might work. Let's see. In this drawer. How about some let's see, I've got some dried chickpeas. Those might work. Let's take those. Close up the doors. And I think I've got something down in my office. Now let's see if I am able to carry everything and use the camera at the same time. Okay. And down the stairs we go. Into my office. Just put these down. All right, we can take a quick peek at my office. Here's my 2 children when they graduated from high school. Brett and Asha, you've heard me talk about them. This is our computer desk. I do a lot of work down here, and this is a table that I enjoy working at here. Okay, I'm going to get set up with the materials and be right back to do some multiplication with you. Okay, I just realized I forgot to grab something from the office, and I've got these little jars right here. And actually any of these would be good. Well, maybe not the tacks, those might be a little bit difficult to work with, but let's take these paper clips. Those will do. Alright, so I've got my things. Now I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can make your groups. First of all, if I was just making groups, the easiest way would just be to group things without any containers. So you can see here, that might be a little tricky to see. Let me just grab a whiteboard. It's easier. You can see here I have two groups. There's one group, here's a second group, two groups of three. Okay, you can also use containers. And for my first set, I'm going to use 2 cups. So I'm going to have 2 groups. All right, and maybe I'll just write on this whiteboard. I'm going to demonstrate, well, actually I'll do that after. All right, so I have my 2 cups, you can see in them, and I'm going to put 4 buttons in each cup. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then into the second cup, I'm going to put 4 more buttons. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So there's an easy way to show 2 groups of 4, or 2 4s. All right, now I'm just going to move these here. If I was writing the multiplication equation, remember the first factor tells me how many groups. There's 2 groups. 2 groups of 4. The second factor tells me how many are in each group. And there's 4 buttons. Altogether, that would be 4 plus 4. Now that's called repeated addition, because we're repeating the same number. If I had another cup and I had 4 more buttons in it, which I haven't pulled out 4 more buttons, but if I did, then I would have 4 plus 4 plus 4. The 4 would repeat 3 times. That's why it's called repeated addition. And I know that 4 plus 4 is 8. So 2 groups of 4 equals 8. Right? So you're going to be writing an equation after you make your groups, and a multiplication equation, and then a repeated addition. Another fun way to show groups is to use a muffin tin. I'm just going to bring this up, and I'm going to scooch those over so that I have some room to write here. All right. So for my next one, I'm going to show 3 groups of 5. And I'm going to use my chickpeas. So if I'm going to do 3 groups of 5, I'm just going to use 3 of the slots here. So I'm just going to put 5 in each of those 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are my 3 groups of 5. So to do my repeated addition, I need to think, what would I be adding together? Right, and I'm just going to write that one over here so you can see it. 5 plus another 5 plus another 5. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 5 more equals 15. It's going off the board there. So 3 groups of 5 equals 15. And here's my repeated addition because I'm repeating adding the 5. And I'm adding 3 5s because there's 3 groups with 5 in each group. All right. Now, you don't need to use cups or muffin tins. You could also use plates, bowls, or you can just make the groups right on the counter or the table, wherever you are working. All right. The last job that you have today is to think of your own multiplication equation and to demonstrate it with a third set of objects. So this is where I'm going to use the paper clips. And let me think. I'm going to do I wonder what 6 groups of 1 would look like. Well, I'm going to make 6 groups, and so just to help me out, I'm going to use squares for my groups. There's 6 of them. And 6 groups of 1. Okay, so this one tells me how many groups, and this one tells me how many in each group. So I'm going to just put 1 in each group. There we go. Now, if I needed to turn this into addition, I'm really adding 1 plus 1 plus 1 6 times. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Equals, well, of course, that's going to equal, I'm really not doing a very good job of my spacing today, 6, because I know that it would be the same as just counting them. And we're going to see that that's something that's quite easy when 1 is a factor. It acts like a mirror, and the other factor is looking in the mirror and it sees itself. So the answer is 6. Doesn't matter if it was a million groups of 1, the answer would still be a million because the 1 million would be looking in the mirror. We'll talk more about that on another day. But here is my multiplication equation and my repeated addition equation. All right, and that really is your job today. You're going to go find 3 sets of objects in your house that you can use, and you are going to show me the questions that are on your schedule. I think it's 4 groups of 3 or 3 groups of 4 maybe, and 5 groups of 2 or something like that. You'll have to check your schedule. I don't have it in front of me. And then you can make those, show me the multiplication and the repeated addition. And then with your third set, I want you to make your own multiplication equation, make it with your objects, and show me, again, the multiplication equation and the repeated addition equation. All right, so have some fun with it. I would like you to take a picture of at least the one that you do on your own. You don't need a picture of all 3. And then upload that to your personal math portfolio, which there is a link on the schedule for you to do that. All right, I look forward to seeing your equations and your objects. And I will see you very soon.